The Pentagon has just announced that it is charging 6 detainees at Guantanamo Bay with murder and war crimes in connection with the September 11th terror attacks on the United States. Military prosecutors say they will be seeking the death penalty in this case. If the charges are approved, they will be the first issued by a military tribunal at Guantanamo Bay, alleging direct involvement in those 2001 attacks. Sebastian Walker has more.
More than 6 years after the 9/11 hijackers brought New York's World Trade Center crumbling to the ground, killing nearly 3,000 people, the Pentagon has announced charges in connection with the attacks.
Today, the convening authority for military commissions received sworn charges against 6 individuals alleged to be responsible for the planning and execution of the attacks upon the United States of America, which occurred on September the 11th, 2001.
The accused include Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the man US investigators suspect was the mastermind of the attacks. The charges include murder, terrorism, and violation of the law of war. And there was confirmation that US attorneys are seeking the death sentence.
The chief prosecutor has requested that the charges be tried jointly and that they be referred as capital for each defendant.
It's taken years for prosecutors to assemble cases against the 6 men, and the announcement of the charges comes amid controversy that US interrogators used waterboarding on Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. The method of tying a suspect down and pouring water over their cloth-covered face to simulate drowning has since been banned.
Chief prosecutor through his
and that could cast questions over the admissibility of the evidence when the cases are referred 120 days from now.
For the Pearl case,
Sebastian Walker, Al Jazeera.
Joining us now in our studio is Matt McLean. He's an attorney representing 4 Guantanamo detainees. Mr. McLean, thank you for joining us. The prosecution has gone big in this case, but simply by stating the charges. 1, they have started a kind of legal timeline, and 2, they have created an expectation that this case is going to come to trial. That's not a dead certainty, is it?
Well, absolutely not. Originally, several detainees were charged way back in 2004. Only 1 has actually been brought to trial and convicted, and that was on a guilty plea. This whole system is basically a made-up process. It hasn't been done before. We have regular courts and regular military trial systems that were, for whatever reasons, not used by the administration. They're making it up as they go along, and that's made it very difficult for them to actually get anything done in it.
And the whole validity of the military tribunal process is being considered by the U.S. Supreme Court, and within a month or so, they could knock out the whole process.
Well, that is possible that sometime in this year, before the Supreme Court right now is a case dealing with the availability of legal review for people detained in Guantanamo.
Take us through the timeline. The charges have been presented. They now must be approved and passed along. And then there is an alleged 120-day period before trial, but trial's likely to be delayed a little bit more than just 4 months, yes?
I think it's very likely that there will be some substantial delay as prosecutors and defense counsels try to work out all the very significant legal difficulties and legal problems in these cases. The 120 days is the period of time in which the prosecutor has to bring the accused before the tribunal for an arraignment. It doesn't mean that by any stretch of the imagination the trial will be completed in that time.
When do you think a trial could, at its earliest, begin with the clock starting today?
Well, as a reference, the first military commission charges were brought back in 2004. Only a single trial has been held, actually not a single trial has been held, only a single conviction has been obtained, and that was by a plea bargain. I think that with the amount of legal problems that they're going to have to deal with, the amount of review in federal courts, I would be surprised if they can do it this year. And
going after 6 defendants at once and asking for the death penalty, both of those complicate the prosecutors' lives, yes?
Well, absolutely. It creates a whole new realm of legal issues that people haven't even begun to scratch the surface of. There's absolutely no reason, for example, that these men couldn't have been tried in federal court, regular courts in the U.S. District of New York or in Virginia. but instead they've chosen this completely novel and system that has not yet to be tested in any way.
Matt McLean, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to go back now to Doha for more of today's news.
The president of East Timor is lying in an Australian hospital after an assassination attempt, and other Pacific nations have put troops on standby to fly into the young nation. Now, the state of emergency has been put in place after the attack, which also left a rebel leader dead. Ramos Horta was shot 3 times at his home in Dili, and in the past few hours has had more surgery. A bullet is reported to have been removed from his chest. Now, he's the man who helped lead East Timor out of Indonesia's bloody grip and won a Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts. Hannah Belcher reports.
The heavy police presence inside and outside President Jose Ramos Horta's home is a sign that East Timor is still as volatile as ever. As dawn broke on Monday, his heavily guarded property on the outskirts of Dili became a crime scene. The military says 2 cars passed the president's house at around 7 a.m. local time and began shooting. 2 gunmen were inside the vehicle, including the ringleader of East Timor's rebel group, Alfredo Renardo. The Prime Minister has confirmed that Renardo was killed in the shootout. One of the rebels' bullets wounded President Ramos Horta in the stomach, another killed one of his guards. The president has been flown to nearby Australia in a serious condition. Prime Minister Xanana Gusmao says his convoy also came under fire in another attack, but no one was hurt. In November, Alfredo Renardo threatened to use force against the government if it failed to concede to demands by his large group of army deserters. He told a crowd of supporters, "I will lead my soldiers down to Dili. The situation and stability of the country will be worse." The rebel leader had threatened something far worse than the 2006 dramatic and violent riots. 37 people died, more than 150,000 fled their homes. Renardo was wanted on murder charges for his alleged role in the fighting between rebel troops and the police. Since then, the United Nations has been policing the capital and slowly handing power back to the East Timorese police. Just last month, the International Crisis Group sent out a warning that there was a risk of more civil unrest here. The Australian Prime Minister says he's sending over more troops and police.
In response to a request from the government of East Timor, the National Security Committee of the Cabinet has met today and authorised a substantial and immediate reinforcement of Australian Defence Force personnel.
Relations between the police and military have improved, but Monday's attack on the leadership is a clear indication that East Timor is far from stable. Hannah Belcher, Al Jazeera.
New Zealand has more than 120 peacekeepers in East Timor and more on standby to go to Dili. We're joined now from Wellington by New Zealand Defence Minister Phil Goff. Mr. Goff, right, as the country's foreign minister, he was a champion of East Timor independence, so you are very aware of the goings-on within the country. But let's first talk about the condition of the president. Any idea how he is doing?
Yes, the latest reports that I've received this morning suggest that he is in an induced coma in hospital in Darwin. I'm told, however, that while the wounds are serious, they have not affected vital organs, and he is expected to make a recovery.
Now, you've put some troops on standby. Does that mean you are expecting any more violence or possibly a return to factional bloodshed?
Well, there was always a prospect that that might happen, though in discussions that I had late last night and early this morning with Timor-Leste, the situation on the ground there currently is calm, and the assessment made by our senior national officer at this point is that it is unlikely that there will be the need for further troops. Australia is putting in another 150 plus 80 police today, but I'm told that this is more for purposes of reassurance rather than a reflection of any further incidents or concerns about the situation on the ground.